Okay, well, we're having a little fun at the top of the hour here with some polls getting you started, but good morning, everyone. Let's get started. Thanks for joining us today. This is our next segment in the online workshop series. So today's topic is 6 strategies for navigating the supply chain disruption. So we'll talk about the market, we'll talk about what Navitor is doing, and we'll also talk about what some of the distributors are doing in face of problems out there. You'll get 6 specific strategies that you can start doing today. So first, we are here to help you drive sales. You are muted automatically, but bring your questions forward into the chat, and we have people standing by at the ready for anything you can put out there. After the webinar, we'll also hold the panelists an extra 15 minutes or so to answer any more questions live as well. And we've crafted this content today based on questions and survey responses that we've received from you. So this is really catered to what you're looking to learn. My name is Stephanie Drago, and I've been here in this industry for 10 years, and I've been working e-commerce and marketing, kind of all things digital, for 20 years. So I'm really glad to be here. So let's introduce our speakers. Darren Underwood, you have been with the company for 17 years. And one of the things I love about your experience is that you've covered customer service and operations. So really at the front lines in a number of different ways. Welcome, Darren.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I've been here 17 years, like you said, and I plan on being here at least another 17 more. So
great. Well, that sounds really good. That sounds really good. And Amanda Vogel, you've been here 20 years in the industry, and from labels to promo to print, and I probably missed a few in between there, but you've really covered the gambit. So really glad to have your experience here today. Welcome, Amanda.
Thanks, Stephanie. And our little tongue-in-cheek is I'm often referred to as that revenue gap filler. And our tongue-in-cheek comment right now is if there's ever a time to fill those gaps, it's now with everything changing, right? Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us today.
That's totally true. So thanks, Amanda. And Hiba Lavan, you have been working in sales directly with customers for over 7 years and with Navitor now for 2 years. So we're really glad to be here today, Hiba.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm looking forward to talk to you about the product trends. So I can have your full attention and save you the hassle of figuring out my accent. I'm originally from Beirut, Lebanon, which is a small, beautiful country on the east side of the Mediterranean Sea.
Well, thank you. I wondered if anyone could guess that as you got started.
It's kind of tricky.
Well, we're really glad to have you here. All right, so I'm going to quick share these little results just about the top phrases. So it's the supply chain is definitely the winner, followed by unprecedented times. And I'm not sure, I hope that we can stop using the term unprecedented times soon, but hopefully we get through this pretty quickly here. But we've got some strategies in it for you today. All right, so let's start talking about kind of the specific agenda. So first, we're going to cover the supply chain in this industry and as well as Navitor specifically. So Darren's going to cover that. And then we will go into Amanda. She is going to talk a little bit more about talking with customers. So we were joking about, is it a bones day or a no bones day? This is really about like taking advantage of what you can do now, what actions you can take. So that'll be Amanda. And then the last part here is Hiba. She'll take us through the 3 product trends to keep in mind as you're getting in front of customers. All right, so at the end of this 30 minutes, you're going to really start to feel more confident about how to handle this, how to walk through this. And so taking a proactive stance is going to be really important. 96% of our workshop attendees, such as yourselves here, report that the webinars are making an impact on their business. So turn off your cell phones, make sure to shut down those distractions, use the chat feature for any questions that you have, and focus on the next step in growing your business. Darren, over to you.
All right. Well, thank you, Stephanie. Now here we got a joke in front of us here, right? I'll give you guys a moment to look it over without distraction here first. So you can.
This is a good one,
right? We're here to talk about, the supply chain in print, but clearly it isn't just print's problem. It isn't a national problem. It's a worldwide problem, even at the North Pole. Santa is having trouble with the supply chain and those poor kids this year. So it's a tough situation.
It is.
Right. You think about the disappointment having to share as a distributor, make you think about being Santa, right?
Yeah, right.
We really do. And we just popped a little survey in there too for Darren, and what you're showing out there is over half of you are having some issues with your orders, and almost half of you are not able to get all the stocks or products that you need. So pretty clear that this is a big this is a big issue here. So Darren, I know you want to keep going, but
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk a little bit about the supply chain and print in general here. So when we're talking about the supply chain in print chain, it's not just about the paper, adhesives, it's about all those other inputs as well too. Because it's like, yeah, you can be out of a certain paper, but why are you out of that paper? There's a lot of wood pulp in our country. Believe it or not, we have a lot of trees that we're able to harvest and replant, be a good steward to the earth. But it's about the chemicals and stuff that goes into that paper as well. A lot of the coatings. If you think of like a coated paper, we have wood pulp at the mill, but the mill needs the chemicals to make the coating for that paper, which ironically comes from China most of the time. So all those boats sitting out there in California area waiting to come in, they got to come in and then they got to get unloaded by people. And then they got to get driven across the country to get to a mill that may be short on labor as well too. So there's so many factors involved in just getting these basic, what we feel like raw materials to print on to get to you and to your customer. So as we go on further down the road with that, there are clearly labor shortages across the country. And we've heard so much in the news about this, right? It's like, well, what's causing it? Well, it's people sitting on their couch not wanting to work. That really isn't the story so much anymore. It's really shifted from, all right, I can't get this in a timely manner from across the ocean now, to I have to produce this in the United States. So it's creating more, hey, made in the USA products. But what that is doing on top of it is it's creating more of a labor shortage. And we're seeing it across the board. And when it comes to freight on everything, it's like 2019, there was a shortage of 70,000 drivers. That's a lot in the country. And that was 2019. That was pre-pandemic. 2020, it went up to 100,000. In 21, we know it didn't get better. Okay, so there's a huge shortage in trucks and drivers trying to get the material from point A to point B. And then everything has to be packaged up to get onto these trucks, or we even have to create the packaging at time. And what is that doing to all of this? It's driving up the costs, right? So it's the timing of getting things, it's the supply and demand, and it's just driving up the expense. So what are we doing about it here at Navitor? Well, we have been constantly stuck in a pit where we're constantly moving to look at, all right, pandemic hits. What did we do? We had to protect our employees. We sent them home that can work from home. We improved our network so they can handle all the customer service calls from their home offices. And that opened up our production areas to spread out more and put up barriers to protect the employees, from whatever virus is spreading around. And we opened up vaccine clinics within, like we were the first people that I have ever heard of that actually had on-site vaccination clinics, which got us a really high percentage of people vaccinated that work within our facilities. So it's a great thing. But on top of it all, we saw, wait a minute, sales decreased right away, but we saw them coming back. And we noticed that there's probably going to be a paper shortage. So we started purchasing. We have a lot of power within our corporation, a lot of buying power. We doubled what we would normally purchase. So we'd have a big extended supply. And what that did is it filled up our warehouse. And we even have pallets of paper now where the customer service people used to be sitting. So we're really expanded out where we actually have more paper today than we've ever had. But that doesn't necessarily mean we have every paper we want. So we are stocked up on a lot of our very common items, but there are some papers that we're still struggling time to time to get our hands on. And that's why it's so important to use our print coaches, because they are experts at assisting you that if the exact name brand paper you want isn't necessarily available, we have comparable solutions so that you can be satisfied and so can your customers and still get the product you want out the door. Now, when it comes to our labor that we were talking about, we have some amazing core employees. I mean, we have people that have been here a very long time, very good press operators, very good customer service people, and we want them to continue to take care of you. So what we did is we gave significant raises to a lot of the people on our floor. And we, again, brought in those vaccination clinics we talked about. We're doing these hiring bonuses to bring in new talent because we're getting a lot of good sales right now. And that's important to bring in new talent so that we can keep servicing you to what you're expected and used to getting from us. By doing that, we also did referral bonuses to take care of the employees that are not getting necessarily the hiring bonus. So they're bringing in good friends, family, people from other businesses so that, you know, we can be full and continue to get that work. Now, the best news about all of this is we've gone through all of this over the last 2 years. And still, here we are coming close to the end of 2021, we have yet to raise our catalog prices. So we're very proud of that we have been able to mitigate all these pivot, move, you know, and be able to work through this without having to pass the expense onto our customers. So with that, I'd like to hand that back over to you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you very much. That was really interesting. So we also have another poll to kind of build on the next section, which is kind of how do you deal with all of this going forward. So let me share the results of this poll. So if you can give options and recommendations to your customers, what are they going to do? Are they going to follow your lead, or are they going to go to someone else who says they can do it, but then ultimately really can't deliver on those promises? I mean, the previous survey really showed how many issues are out there. And, you know, print can be a really positive part of talking with customers and what you can do, just like Darren said, because there's a lot of option out there. So Amanda, I will pass it over to you because it looks like over 80% are saying that they're going to follow your lead as the distributor, and your customers are going to stick with you. So let's hear more about that. Amanda?
That's awesome. And that's good to hear that that's the direction that you guys are getting from your clients too, because that's what we're here to talk about is how do we continue to move forward now that we're in this reality. So where I'm coming in is we're going to talk about 3 strategies for you to talk with your customers about, just to kind of get through this time and make it maybe not so scary for them as well. So the first strategy is really to ask your vendors, what are they doing to mitigate? So a few key questions you could ask them would be, what stocks do you keep on hand for inventory? Kind of like Darren was saying, we've purchased a lot of our commonly required or requested material just to keep on hand to try to keep up with that demand. Another question is, of those standard offerings, are there some that are more volatile? Because there are, like Darren said, it depends. Is it coded? Is it not? Is the coding available? It changes daily. How long has your vendor been in communication or been working with their major suppliers? Should you avoid certain products or processes with like maybe the next week or month if you have an urgent order? Because that's another thing. Certain processes may take longer time than normal because it might take the supplier longer time to get certain things on hand. And then what are your current lead times on average? Because again, we're seeing disruption that can make a difference. Something that could normally be 24 hours might take a week. So just prepping that and asking those questions ahead of time might help you be able to plan accordingly as well. The second, and our favorite word, they caught me off guard. So our favorite word, back to the poll question, is what words have we been hearing over and over and over again? Here's my favorite.
Here we go, pivot, 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 pivot. Shut up, shut up, shut up.
Okay, seriously, pivot. I think I've said that a million times and I continue to say it, right? We all do. And I was surprised that isn't the one that won earlier on the poll. That was my answer. Pivot, right? We're going to do it. It's what we know now. And I heard one of you responded that you've only been in the industry for 2 years. And that's probably the thing that you've learned to do the most and the quickest is to be ready to change, because that's what we have to do. So that's part of the conversation you want to have with the customer too. First and foremost is on that second strategy is just to notify your customers and to prep them. So one of the things we have to help you is we have a template letter out on our blog that you can share with your customer to give them the whys behind some of these delays in processing or why there's price increases. Another thing would be to look at cost savings with them or maybe even internally to help kind of offset some of these increases that are happening. Implementing retail pricing. So knowing that more price increases are coming in addition to ones we've already seen, like we see here over on this chart, these are just some examples of increases that the industry has seen throughout 2021, ranging anywhere from 2.5% up to 20% increase. So that's significant. So getting ahead of that, knowing that more is coming and adjusting your pricing accordingly to help absorb some of that, which ties into step 4 is really just planning ahead. If you start to make those adjustments now, maybe it's slight adjustments over time, so it's not so drastic, but it's also going to help you absorb some of that since we know it's coming and it's inevitable. And the third strategy, which is really important, is just order early, right? We know that everything is very unpredictable right now. And we know that reorders are kind of where a lot of the bread and butter is, because that residual business is really what matters. That's when the relationships come into play. That's when customers rely on you. So getting out those reorder notices earlier than you normally would to say, hey, we know there's sometimes some shortages in stock. Let's look at this order because this is important for you, for your business. What can we do now? Looking at those specialty stocks. If it's something that they really require, maybe it's a bank that wants that really fancy material. Maybe it's looking at saying, okay, do we look at a different comparable material that's more readily available? Or do we look at maybe getting some inventory on hand so we have it, looking at what that typical annual usage is? Another option would be, if you do printing in-house, really having that solid backup plan ready with that backup printer, whether it's helping you with overflow because the demand is increasing and maybe you don't have as many staff on the floor as you used to, or maybe you're having trouble getting some of the material, like we hear a lot right now with magnets. Magnets are a big thing, right? So what's a backup plan? People are shifting to those removable, repositionable labels instead, right? So just being ready to pivot and have backup options, that's a really good thing. So talking to those customers, just getting them comfortable with it, right? Talking about changes, talking about new ideas. And that's really great transition for Hiba, because Hiba's got some more strategies for us right after this. Hiba?
Yeah, thank you, Amanda. So I get asked a lot, what is in now? Trend number 4 is to recommend simplicity. We've all heard the term less is more. So if you're looking for a fast turnaround with business card orders, I would skip the raised foil and enhanced finishes and just go back to basics. Simply use our in-house stocks printed in full color with flat finishes. It saddens me to say this. What makes my job exciting are the colors, the designs, textures that we do every day. Hopefully this is just a little hiccup along the way that will pass. When it comes to labels, I am not sure how many of you are aware of our pre-printed label stock and decals that are in stock and ready to ship. I know we all wish we had this crystal ball to know what the future holds until that technology is available on the App Store. This is what has helped our customers in the past. You order in bulk and early to be on the safe side. And along the same mantra, even in signage, invest in working with your designers to come up with catchy artwork on the standard vinyls, plastics, and yard signs. We are witnessing sporadic shortages with metal and e-bond. I would also like to add that custom dies turnaround used to be a day. Now it's almost taking a week. So while my previous slide was full of volatility, here is where we can take a breather. Our mailings portfolio does include personalized and non-personalized postcards, in addition to holiday and note cards. And the more personalized content to include, the more trust and loyalty we see with our audience. Also, you can increase access to more content by adding QR codes in your mailings. I honestly thought that QR codes were a thing of the past, but they are everywhere now. I see them on menus, I see them on napkins, on posters, almost everywhere. In a recent study, millennials tend to rank themselves higher when it comes to generating new business. And that is the audience to which QR codes factor is more appealing. With the holiday season coming up, I am starting to see holiday cards coming across. I was in the office yesterday and I saw those embossed cards that were being mailed out. And they stood out to me because they looked so simplistic and they looked so refined without any ink on them. Now, our sixth and final strategy is to promote brand activism. What is brand activism? Brand activism is all about the organizational efforts in improving community and society. When it comes to employers, here are two aspects you may want to consider. On one hand, you may want to promote using dry erase coating for badges and signage, which includes pronouns. So it can be reused in settings with high employee turnover, which we are witnessing a lot lately. On the other hand, and with the uptake in awareness about diversity and inclusion, you may want to bring this to your customers' attention and proactively approach them to update their ID badges, gender-neutral restroom signs, and like mother's rooms. To piggyback on the impact of diversity and inclusion movement and the millennials' influence and the environmental awareness, our recycled material stocks are taking the front seat. And that would be one way you can highlight the impact of your message. We are seeing mostly in architectural firms, builders, schools, governments, and solar companies. If you are interested, visit navitor.com to order, and we can always send you samples. Every company have print materials made in the past, and with this new trend, we are anticipating the need for updates in artwork to align with the inclusion and diversity awareness. I have distributors who have gone through the client's artwork and proactively approach them to update their material. All right, Stephanie, that's what I got for you.
Well, thank you. That's really good. So we have a couple of things that we'll do for you as well, folks who are registered to do the webinar. You will get the recording after this. So this afternoon, you'll get the recording and you'll get a copy also of the supply chain thought leadership piece that we published last month. And we have updates coming just at the end of this week. So you get another notice that the updates are here and live. So that chart that Hibba was showing where it's kind of where those areas of volatility, what we're really trying to highlight in this thought leadership piece and today is just, you're not really sure what's going to be working today, and what's working today might not work tomorrow. So it's really trying to give you a lot of different options to go between so that, you know, it's not, again, it's like you can't really say like, what are you going to be doing next month? It's really hard to predict. So getting ahead of that and having some options to put in your customers' hands are going to be really important. Okay, so that's what we'll be doing to you. I think let's start moving into the Q&A section. We've got a lot of questions coming in. Again, you guys can put more into the chat and we'll keep covering this for as many questions as we have to get through. Okay, so our first question, folks, is Navitor experiencing extended lead times? So Darren, I might throw this one your direction, and I know there's going to be a variety of products here to kind of cover, but maybe you kind of answer in whole.
You know, we're doing basically everything that we can with the business. Again, the pivot thing, right? So today, everything keeps changing. So we have big teams in our purchasing departments that are going through, and we have daily meetings with them of what is our forecast coming in, what is on our dock to go out essentially. And that's kind of going on with all the Navitor companies. So everybody's really trying to keep on the pulse of that. But the good news is still the majority of everything is still shipping on time and as expected without any hiccups. So we're really working on keeping that and maintaining that.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you. So that sounds good. Majority of products are going out as expected. I mean, that's the bottom line. There are some exceptions for sure. Okay, so if I want to guarantee that I have a specific stock for my order, what options do I have as a distributor? Talking to a customer, what can they say? What can they do? Amanda, could I ask you to cover this one and see what you think?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Just because like we talked about, things do change daily. We'd love to tell you right now what we have on hand, and it's great and we're good, but we know that could change tomorrow just based off of one large order. So if you're faced with a deadline or anything that's very, very set in stone, we always recommend just calling and talking to us, because then we can at least work on A, checking real-time inventory, and B, possibly even securing what we have for inventory for an order from you. It's really just going to be a case-by-case basis, and that's a scenario where it's best to just hop on the phone and talk through it. Just like we said, just really, it changes. And, you know, aside from the promo where you can usually hop on a website and check inventory, you can't do that in the world of print. So best line of defense is always call.
I know there's a couple of different kinds of inventory. Do you want to give a little bit more understanding of that, Amanda? Because
Totally.
I feel like I'm always learning about these options too. So
things to keep in mind is it's going to be the material, right? The paper, the label material, the folders, whatever the ink is going on. The ink, that's another substrate, right? Foil, if it's going to be foil stamped. Dyes, if it's going to be embossed. Can we get the dyes in for the embossing? Because how's that manufacturer doing? Talking about when we do the spot varnish or the raised varnish, can we get that chemical in to continue to do that? Any of those special type of finishes. So really it's anything and everything. So, you know, just, and it might be just normal going forward. This might just be what we have to adjust to anytime there is a rush or an in-hand state. You know, rush has kind of become that word that almost doesn't exist in a lot of our languages, because it's became hard to do rush orders, but even just to work on those commitment dates, you know, that's a little bit more realistic. But that's where it's very important too, to just have those communications with those customers that, you know, call you because they needed it yesterday. Those are the customers that you need to really have those proactive conversations and just say, look, the industry is not the same. It's not what we're used to dealing with. We need to make sure we're planning ahead. And yeah, it's just a business card or just a flyer, but it's going to be a very important piece to think about early on too. So.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you, Amanda. I don't know, Darren, did you want to add anything on inventory?
Yeah, well, inventory or just in general, let's just talk equipment too, right? So one beautiful thing about our organization is we have multiple plants, multiple locations. And as we talk about, you know, paper, it's like, might be running low on something and we reach out and they say, oh, it's going to be a month, maybe 2 months. We're like, whoa, right? Well, you mentioned that, Amanda, that kind of struck something that just happened the other day, where our turn from our vendor is usually 5 days on a die. On this particular piece of equipment, it's up to 10 weeks now. So it's about now, all right, who in the organization has a die that matches this, and getting that still produced and as close to on time as possible and getting it back to the customer's hands. So again, it's everything and anything.
Yeah.
We have a great engineering team, so we can make parts because we're unable to source parts at this time with, like, whether it's 3D printed or just literally somebody creating a new part, milling it out of metal, because we have that full capability within our organization. So it's interesting times, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's a good ad.
Very good ad, very good ad. Thank you. Okay, we have another person who is asking about the price increases that we're expecting. So we actually do have guidance out there on the supply chain thought leadership piece. Amanda, might you be able to go back a few to just show that? Because I think you might be able to walk us through a couple of the products and highlights there.
Yeah, just give me a minute to click back.
Yeah, I know. I have to get back to it.
2 slides back.
Yep. So we do give guidance out there in the ranges that we're seeing in each of the product lines. This would start in January is when the catalog pricing is going up. So you still have, 2 months here to order under the current pricing levels, like Darren was saying. So this is the slide, and this references the supply chain guidance. So Amanda, you want to cover kind of what you're seeing here?
Yeah, we kind of broke it down by product category type because that's the easiest way to digest this one. The biggest that we're seeing here is going to be typically in the signs and graphics, and that's going to include things like yard signs and banners and maybe like large window decals and things in that nature, trade show displays, things like that. The other area, which I would assume that most all of you are aware if you're dealing in the promotional product or apparel industry, is the promo category. That's the other highest. we're seeing some significant upticks in envelopes as well, and then in forms. But across the board, as you see there, when you pull the promo and the signs and graphics out of the range, you're pretty safe to say it's like that 8 to 10% increase range is a pretty safe assumption for 2022. And like I said, just expect a little bit higher increase. It's just because the consumables, right? There's more involved with those items outside of just printing on paper.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And while this is our guidance, I mean, just to kind of underscore Amanda's point, like this is what you'll be seeing in the market as well. However, you might have seen it come in parts. So someone might have increased their prices in January and June, and now they're going to do it again in January or February. So some people are taking more of a stepped approach to it. So you might be seeing that as well. Okay. All right. So that sounds good. And let us know if we didn't hit all of your questions. If you have any more questions, just keep putting them in the chat. I'm going to go to the next one, which was how do I know what you're going to have in stock? Do I have to call you every time? Like how does a distributor know? How can you talk with confidence to your customer? I think that's a really tricky one. We were just talking about a customer that had sent in a quote on Tuesday. And then by Wednesday, there was a change in the process, or sorry, in the inventory level. And suddenly, the whole thing just, kind of goes on its head. So that can be really frustrating. And I know that's a rare example, but how do you deal with that? How does a distributor know? So Hiba, might you be able to touch on this one?
Yeah, of course. Usually if it's a catalog or an online order, as of today, our most commonly ordered items are safe to order. When it comes to specialty areas, like what Amanda mentioned with the magnets and folders, we recommend that you do get in touch with us, whether by phone call, by email, by chat, even on our site. We always have options for you, and my customers have been very flexible. So we can have like option 1. If it doesn't work, we can do option 2, option 3. We always have to be open for options. And it's changing, just like what you said, Stephanie. It's changing day by day. So when you need to be ready to place your order immediately. If we have the stock, just go ahead and place the order. If you wait on it, the stock might be gone.
Yeah. Amanda or Darren, you guys want to add anything else to this one? I know this is a big one.
Yeah, I was gonna more so echo Hiba. We've had pretty good luck with the items, especially if you go on to like Navitor.com. The items that are listed there, majority of all those items have been able to turn quickly. We've had somewhere we've had product that we haven't been able to get our hands on for a day or two, but it usually doesn't make a huge impact. If there is something that we do run into a big hiccup with, whether it's like a coated stock or something, because it's a coating issue, then we would just have to reach out to you and let you know to say, hey, we got your order, but here's what we're looking at. But again, we're pretty comfortable with the items we have on Navitor.com right now.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing situations where we're getting a lot of gratefully new customers that I think their current vendors are short on supply. And we're seeing a lot more big commercial runs come through where it might even be a customer that we have today that normally orders every month, but they order their whole year in advance. And it does put a little constraint on the labor pool, but it's great to get that business and get that product out so they feel comfortable for 22.
Okay, thanks, Darren. Thanks, guys. All right, so there was a mention about a letter to the client. So where would that be? So I can probably cover this one, and we'll also put this letter in the email that you guys get today with the recording and other materials. So actually on the slide that Amanda's looking at right now, that we have a template letter out there on the Navitor Impressions blog that you can copy and paste and make your own. But it's talking about the supply chain, it's talking about raising prices, it's talking about the why, it's talking about the whole situation that you can really take and make your own. And that proactive communication is really important. Amanda, anything else you want to add about that letter?
No, it's a good letter. I've actually had some of the customers that I've been talking with use that, and it's translated really well to the end user. So I encourage using it.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so I got that one covered. Let's see if there's any other questions out there. I think I've covered most of them. So any final words that, you guys are hearing, seeing, anything else, kind of advice? If you could say one thing to a distributor, what might be something that they do right now? Amanda, you maybe could start us off.
Yep, I'm hoping I'm not stealing Hiba's thunder, but it's in the just about every daily conversation I have is be flexible, encourage your customers to be flexible, and really look at options. So if you know that the customer is set on one way, let's look at an alternative. Maybe that specialty paper isn't such a big deal. Maybe we look at a different finish on it, or maybe it's an update to the design. And that really actually has been a big driver. We've had a lot of rebrands happen, or companies that they might keep their logo, but they want to go a little bit more flashy just to kind of get their brand to pop more again after, things are starting to come back up. Just think about that. Think about refresh, think about options, think about if this isn't available, here's something else that might happen. And then from that gap filling standpoint, think outside of the box, think about different ways to use things. I had a customer whose client was getting ready to do a craft show. And they were like, well, I want someone to know about my business once they leave, because I'm not going to have a lot of inventory for them to buy. I'm going to do more of an online store type thing. And what they did to tie in the QR codes is they ordered postcards and then just did it as like a rack card or sales sheet, two-sided imprint, real nice, clean, classy logo on the backside. And then on the other side was a little bit of information about the owner. And then it had a QR code. So then I could just scan and go right to the website because I don't have to type it in, right? So just think creatively.
Think creatively. That's a good line. I don't think you have to be sorry for it either. I know when we say recommend simplicity, like there's so many cool design choices that you can do and get creative. So I think like what I always hear Amanda you talking about is just that being the expert or being proactive with this just puts you front and center in front of your customer so that you're getting ahead of the problems that they might be seeing. So
you got it.
So thank you.
You got it.
Okay. So let me keep going. Hiba, do you have any recommendations? Like what would be your biggest recommendation to a distributor?
It's honesty, honestly. It's honestly. Yeah, be honest, be upfront. We are all dealing with this situation. Don't overpromise. Just say it like it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that, Hiba. Thank you. Darren, what might be your recommendation?
I think be prepared. Like we ordered inventory early, maybe try to get your orders in a little earlier if you can. It's important that, okay, Christmas is coming up, the Santa joke, right? Do you have your Christmas cards ordered?
Good question.
That's true.
So yeah, it's just kind of all with that, and pack some patience at the same time, right? Like what's being said, because we're all in it together. It isn't just the print industry, but it's important to be kind to the people that are supporting you as well too.
Yeah, thanks, Darren. Okay, it looks like I have a last question here. If a client is planning an event and they might be ordering a variety of print and promo materials from a distributor, what can help them make sure everything is covered? So what might they look at as far as like output goes? Amanda, might be able to take this one?
It's a loaded question. It
kind of is.
Right. I'm like, ooh, that's a good one. So the best thing that I would recommend in that case is I would try to start that as a conversation on the phone and try to get someone to really own the project with you. And let them know that here are all the pieces that I want to order. Here's my deadline, because then they can kind of act as that project manager for you to oversee those items and keep tabs on them to make sure they're all going through. Like Darren said, we do have different producing facilities. So some items will have to ship separately. We won't be able to ship them together, but that person can still stay in contact with the different producing facilities to make sure everything's on track. So a phone call is a great way to start it, you know, and emails obviously are going to happen from there, but it's definitely always okay to say, hey, I need someone to own this one with me, and give you that little bit of piece of confidence along the way.
Mhm. And we have some advice too from some of our products that things like labels, stickers, and decals are often sort of forgotten until the last minute. So putting that in your mind to maybe be earlier in your planning might be a really good idea, just to make sure there, because anything last minute is going to probably struggle, even if it's just on the shipping side. Production might go through very smoothly, but shipping is going to slow down. So so some of the recommendations is watch for some of those products that can be easily forgotten.
Yeah.
That makes me think of another thing, Stephanie, that you say the
Sure.
ship.
Yeah.
Also, just to be warned, we might be changing shipping carriers from time to time too, because we're working with where UPS might hit their limits, so we might have to ship FedEx unplanned, unannounced. So just be prepared for that. If you're used to getting it from one carrier, it might be coming from another, but we'll try to always make sure it's the same service level.
Yeah, good call out, Darren. And the holidays are coming too, so that means expect extended ship times too.
Yes.
And the post office is slowing down. There's
Yep.
some articles about that too, and kind of what's going there. So yeah, it's really tightening the squeeze there.
Yep.
All right, perfect. Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone, for your time today. We know how tough it is out there. We would appreciate your feedback. So when you close out of the webinar here, you will get a link to a quick survey, and please make sure to fill that in. This survey is where you can let us know if you'd also like samples of anything. If you'd like one of us to call you or email you, you can put your name in there too, and then we'll get a hold of you. So thank you also to everyone on our panel, Darren, Hiba, and Amanda. It was really great having you. Appreciate all your really good advice and information. And here at Navitor, we innovate, you sell, it's a win. We are going to get through this, and we will get through this together. So thank you all, and have a really great day.